Good morning, my dear students. My name is P. Jaj Rajkumar. I am working as a professor in School of Education at Master University. First of all, I would like to thank the Director of the School of Education, Professor Dr. Shauli Mukherjee, who gave me opportunity to develop this e-content. Thank you. Okay. The course name is Childhood and Growing Up, course code EDN 51101. The contents of the course: this course has two parts, part 1 and part 2. The part 1 is development and its characteristics, part 2 is aspects of development. In this part 1, that is development and its characteristics, we have 5 units. And in part 2 also we have 5 units. So the first unit in part 1 is growth and developmental pattern of learners. Second unit is stages of development. Third unit is different types of development. Fourth unit is individual differences. Fifth unit is development of personality. Coming to the part 2, that is aspects of development. The first unit is various aspects related to development. Second unit is motivation. Third unit is intelligence. Fourth unit is creativity. And the fifth unit is attention and interest. When we come to the objectives of the course, the student teacher will be able to explain the concept of growth and development and stages of development with special reference to the stages of adolescence. The second objective is the student teacher will be able to know about the developmental characteristics. Third objective, the student teacher will be able to be aware of influence of heredity on developmental process. Fourth objective, the student teacher will be able to be aware of influence of environment factors on developmental process. Fifth unit is the student teachers will be able to be aware of influence of socio-cultural factors on developmental process. And the last, sixth objective of this course is the student teacher will be able to develop the skills of applying the principles of development in improving the teaching learning process. So course delivery methods. The first method generally I use interactive lecture. The second method individual and group presentations of the students. Third method collaborative learning. Fourth method focus group discussions. And the last and wonderful active learning method, that is think, pair and share. And coming to the unit 3, different types of development. This unit contains cognitive development, Piaget's theory and its educational implications, psychosexual development explained by Freud theory, psychosocial development, Erikson theory of psychosocial development. The fourth content, moral and pro-social development by Kohlberg's theory, development of social concept and personal identity. And the sixth part, language development, communication and speech development, paralinguistic and linguistic stages of development. Coming to the first part of this unit, cognitive development, Piaget's theory and its educational implications. So first of all, I would like to show you the picture of Jean Piaget. So he is Jean Piaget, and so he was a Swiss psychologist known for his work on child development. Piaget's theory of cognitive development and epistemological view are together called genetic Jean-William Frege epistemology. Piaget placed great importance on the education of children. He studied the intellectual development of his own three children. He born on 9th August 1996 in Neuchâtel, Switzerland, and he died 16th September 1980 at Geneva, Switzerland. So if you see this slide, here you are seeing the epistemology. So the epistemology is one branch of philosophy. Okay, so philosophy, I think some of you know the etymological origin of the word philosophy. The word philosophy is derived from two Greek words, philios and sophia. Philios means love and sophia means wisdom. So the total we can say philosophy as love of wisdom. So mainly philosophy can be divided into three parts. One is axiology, second one is epistemology, and the third one is metaphysics. Axiology deals with the values, epistemology deals with the study of knowledge, and metaphysics is study of what is really real. So epistemology is study of knowledge. So cognitive development is related with the knowledge. So Piaget's theory of cognitive development and epistemological view of Piaget are together called, on his name, genetic Jean William Fridge epistemology. And coming to the Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development suggests that children move through 4 different stages of learning. His theory focused not only on understanding how children acquire knowledge, but also on understanding the nature of intelligence. Piaget believed that children take an active role in the learning process, acting much like little scientists as they perform experiments, make observations, and learn about the world. So, as kids interact with the world around them, they continually add new knowledge, build upon existing knowledge, and adapt previously held ideas to accommodate new information. So, when we deal with the kids, we should be very careful and we should be very cautious because they interact with the world around them and they continually add new knowledge, build upon existing knowledge, and adapt previously held ideas to accommodate new information. Coming to the 4 important stages proposed by the Piaget are, the first one is sensory motor stage. It is from birth to 2 years. And the second stage is pre-operational stage. It varies from ages 2 to 7. The third one is concrete operational stage, ages 7 to 11. And the fourth and final stage is formal operational stage, ages 11 and above. And coming to the first stage, the sensory motor stage, which the duration is from birth to 2 years. During this earliest stage of cognitive development, infants and toddlers acquire knowledge through sensory experiences and manipulating objectives. A child's entire experience at the earliest period of this stage occur through basic reflexes, senses, and motor responses. So we should be, as a teacher, we should know a child's entire experience at this earliest period of this stage occurs through basic reflexes, senses, and motor responses. So you may say that, sir, I will become a teacher to the higher education or a teacher to the high school, but I didn't met the childs in this sensory motor stage. But remember, one day you will become father or mother, so you have to know what exactly happens, how the cognitive development takes place in this earliest stage. So major characteristics and developmental changes during this stage. The first one, child know the world through movements and sensations, learn about the world through basic actions such as sucking, grasping, looking, and listening. Learn that things continue to exist even when they cannot be seen. This type of feeling is called object permanence. See, when you observe the small children between the age of 0 to 2 years, when they sleep, sometimes they laugh, sometimes they cry. So these are because of continue to exist even when they cannot be seen. So the things are with them. If they remember the good things what they have seen before their sleep, they laugh, and if anyone frightened them, they cry in the sleep. So the next characteristics, child realize that they are separate beings from the people and objects around them. And child realize that their actions can cause things to happen in the world around them. And during the sensory motor stage, children go through a period of dramatic growth and learning. As kids interact with their environment, they continually make new discoveries about how the world works. The cognitive development that occurs during this period takes place over a relatively short time and involves a great deal of growth. Children not only learn how to perform physical actions such as crawling and walking, they also learn a great deal about language from the people with whom they interact. So, mother tongue they learn by themselves because they interact with their mother and father, and the people are around him also of the same language. They learn mother tongue after in this stage. Piaget also broke this stage down into substages. Early representational thought emerges during the final part of the sensory motor stage. And coming to the second stage, that is the pre-operational stage, the duration of this stage is 5 years and it starts from age of 2 to and ends to 7 years. The foundations of language development may have been laid during the previous stage, but the emergence of the language is one of the major hallmarks of the pre-operational stage of development. Even though the foundation of language developed in the previous stage, but the emergence will take place in this pre-operational stage, which is from 2 to 7 years. So, major characteristics and developmental changes during this stage are: 1. Begin to think symbolically and learn to use words and pictures to represent objects. And coming to the second character, tended to be egocentric and struggle to see things from the perspective of others. Egocentric. So suppose if you have a child of age 2 to 7, if I come to your house and if you ask your child to greet me, that boy didn't want to, that girl didn't want to greet me because they are in egocentric stage. Okay, they feel they are very great, they are greater than the professor of you, so they didn't want to say hello, or they didn't want to extend their hand to shake. So this is due to the egocentric and struggle to see things from the perspective of others. Getting better with language and thinking, but still tend to think in very concrete terms. They didn't have idea to think about the abstract things. At this stage, kids learn through pretend play, but still struggle with logic and taking the point of view of other people. The other character, they also often struggle with understanding the idea of consistency. Children become much more skilled at pretend play during this stage of development, yet they continue to think very concretely about the world around them. For example, a researcher might take a lump of clay, divide it into two equal pieces, and then give a child the choice between two pieces of clay to play with. One piece of clay is rolled into a compact ball, while the other is smashed into a flat pancake shape. The boy selects pancake shaped one because the flat shape looks larger. The pre-operational child will likely choose that piece, even though the two pieces are exactly the same size. And coming to the third stage, the concrete operational stage, from 7 to 11 years, while children are still very concrete and literal in their thinking at this point in development, they become much more adept at using logic. The egocentrism of the previous stage begins to disappear as kids become better at thinking about how other people might view a situation. So, when we see the major characteristics and developmental changes during this stage, The first character begin to think logically about concrete events. So at this age also they didn't get abstract thinking and abstract thinking unable to develop in their mind. So they only think logically about concrete events. So the second character begin to understand the concept of conservation, that the amount of liquid in short wide cup is equal to that in a tall shiny glass, for example. Thinking becomes more logical and organized in this stage, but still very concrete. Begin using inductive logic or reasoning from specific information to a general principle. We know there are two types of scientific methods. One is inductive and second one is deductive. Inductive is we finally induce something at the end. So we take examples and by the examples we induce a general principle. And come to the deductive method, see we will take a theory or principle in the beginning and we will check with the examples. So in this concrete operational stage, child begin using inductive logic or reasoning from specific information to a general principle. Another character of this stage is while thinking becomes much more logical during the concrete operational state, it can also be very rigid. Kids at this point in development tends to struggle with abstract and hypothetical concepts. So at this stage as a teacher you need to use teaching learning material to support their ideas, to make them not confused in understanding abstract things. So kids at this point in development tend to struggle with abstract and hypothetical concepts. During this stage, children also become less egocentric and begin to think about how other people might think and feel. Kids in the concrete operational stage also begin to understand that their thoughts are unique to them and that not everyone else necessarily shares their thoughts, feelings and opinions. And coming to the last stage of Jean Piaget cognitive development, that is the formal operational stage, which is from age 11 and up. The final stage of Piaget's theory involves an increase in logic, the ability to use deductive reasoning and an understanding of abstract ideas. In the previous stage, student or a learner or a child or a germ uses inductive approach to understand the things or inductive reasoning to understand the things, but in this stage, so student or child uses deductive reasoning. Means he take a generalization and apply it to the examples. Okay, so when as a father, if you talk with your child in this age, he come to you and says that man did like this. First he tells the principle, then he asks permission to you to do the same. So this is called deductive reasoning. At this point, adolescents and young adults become capable of seeing multiple potential solutions to problems and think more scientifically about the world around them. And after age of 15 or 16, they are ready to understand even the abstract concepts like atom, electron, proton and neutron, which are unable to see. They are completely abstract concepts. So let me see the major characteristics and developmental changes during this time. The first character begins to think abstractly and reason about hypothetical problems. The second character begins to think more about moral, philosophical, ethical, social and political issues that require theoretical and abstract reasoning. The third character, it begins to use deductive logic, as I said before, or reasoning from a general principle to specific information. The ability to thinking about abstract ideas and situations is the key hallmark of the formal operational stage of cognitive development. As a teacher, you should remember in this stage, the ability to thinking about abstract ideas and situations are the key hallmark of this stage. And coming to the other character, the ability to systematically plan for the future and reason about hypothetical situations are also critical abilities that emerge during this stage. So, at this stage of their cognitive development, they decided to become and decided to select one type of a profession. If you ask them what you want to be in future, they will say a doctor or engineer or IAS officer, like that, because the ability to systematically plan for the future and reason about hypothetical solutions or situations are also critical abilities that emerge during this stage. So, let me see the importance of this Piaget's theory in the field of education, educational implications of Piaget's theory of cognitive development in education. So, the first one is to provide educational experience. Based on the developmental level of children, the curriculum should be provide the required educational experiences. Okay, if we see CBSE syllabus, okay, if you have time, so just basing on this Piaget's classification, you observe and you can critique the curriculum what is from standard 1 to standard 10 or 12. So, in providing educational experiences, Piaget's theory of cognitive development is very useful in the field of education. And the second implication is encourage self-learning environment. Encourage self-learning environment. Classroom activities that encourage and assist self-learning must be incorporated. Okay, so these should be self-learning environment. It should not be forced. Friends, I want to tell you, learning is joyful venture. It's a joyful, what we say, joyful nature. Learning has, it should be joyful. It should not be a panic or it should not be feeling sad. So we should create learning, self-learning environment, and we should encourage self-learning environment. The third educational implication is incorporate practice learning. It means practical learning situations must be included in the class. Practical learning, hands-on experience. Giving only lecture method or giving only demonstration lecture method is not enough. We should make the students do things by their own. Even though they do wrong also, no problem, but practical learning situations must be included in the classroom. The fourth educational implication is inclination of co-curricular activities. So, co-curricular activities that enhance children's cognitive development must be given equal importance as curricular activities. If I want to tell you the meaning of curriculum is set of syllabus, curricular activities, co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities. Syllabus is about the contents of different subjects, and curricular activities means the activities related with the syllabus within the school we call curricular activities. So, when we come to the co-curricular activities, these activities are also related with the syllabus but outside the classroom. It means in the near surroundings. Suppose if the student is learning about preparation of sugar, if the teacher made him visit the sugar factory, that will come under co-curricular activities. And coming to the extracurricular activities, it means dancing, singing, playing. This is not related with the syllabus. Okay, so extracurricular activities very important to the student, because we know education is unfoldment of every ability enfolded in the individual. To unfold every ability enfolded in the student, we should use extracurricular activities. And coming to the inclusion of project teaching. Project method is a very wonderful method. It is a student-centered method, especially for the nowadays. We can apply this project method to all subjects. So project teaching should be, we have to include in the teaching learning process. So this means the teaching method must be simple to complex, and the inclusion of the project teaching method is recommended. So whenever we teach as the teachers, we should use the method of simple to complex. And the sixth implication of Piaget's theory of cognitive development in education is development of mature thinking. It means children learn and think differently from adults, therefore, they should be taught accordingly. They should be taught accordingly. So, this is called development of mature thinking. And the other educational implication is encourage discovery approach, heuristic method. So, discovery approach, we should keep the child at the place of the scientists, okay, young scientists. So, this is called encouraging discovery approach. Our NEP 2020 also emphasizing on discovery approach. So, the discovery approach to learning must be emphasized. It's very important. When we apply this Piaget's theory of cognitive development in education, no doubt our education should be fruitful and very prosperous, no doubt about it. So, John Piaget did his research for 65 years and he worked on his 3 children and he developed this theory which is very important, and we already learned about this, the 4 stages, and I want to tell you the 4 stages again. One is sensory motor stage, it is from birth to 2 years. Pre-operational stage is from ages of 2 to 7 years. The third one is concrete operational stage, ages 7 to 11 years, and the fourth one is formal operational stage, ages 11 and up. So, in this sensory motor stage, basic actions such as sucking, grasping, looking, and listening will learn by the child, and in pre-operational stage, begin to think symbolically and learn to use words and pictures to represent objects. And in the concrete operational stage, the child begin to think logically about concrete events, begin to understand the concept of conservation, that the amount of liquid in short wide cup is equal to that in a tall shiny glass, for example, and thinking becomes more logical and organized but still very concrete. This is very important. We have to, as the teachers, we remember when we deal with the children from 7 to 11, we should know in this stage they are still very concrete, and begin using inductive logic in this stage. And when we come to the fourth stage, formal operational stage, ages 11 to and up, the student try to use deductive approach and also begins to think abstract concepts abstractly and reason about theoretical problems, begin to think more about moral, philosophical, ethical, social and political issues that require theoretical and abstract reasoning. So, we need to develop moral values, philosophical, ethical values, and we need to tell, at this stage, we need to tell our children, our students about our country. So, patriotism should be developed in this, which remains throughout their life and throughout their beautiful life. So, this is about the Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory. It's very important. So, dear students, please hear, please learn, and please keep all the stages in your mind to become a great teachers and to serve the nation more accurately. Thank you very much. Welcome to the second session. In this, I would like to discuss with you psychosexual development, which is given by Freud. It's a very wonderful concept. You will see this. Okay, so this is the picture of Freud. He is very intelligent man, and he is from Germany. He born on 6th May 1956 and died on 23rd September 1939. He was an Austrian neurologist. Austria is very near to the Germany. I think you know one important person from Austria, Hitler. Hitler is actually not German; he is Austrian. He shifted to Germany from Austria. So this Sigmund Freud shifted to Austria from Germany, and he was an neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, which is a clinical method for evaluating and treating pathologies seen as originating from conflicts in the psyche through dialogue between patient and psychoanalyst, and the distinctive theory of mind and human agency derived from this from it. Okay, so he did completely on patients. He did research on patients and developed this psychosexual development. So we will in the critic also we say Freud didn't do research on children, but he did research on patients. That always criticize about this psychosexual development. So Freud's stages of human development, while Freud's theory of personality development is well known in psychology, it has always been quite controversial, both during Freud's time and in modern psychology. Okay, it brought a great revolution in the people. So according to the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, children go through a series of psychosexual stages that lead to the development of the adult personality. Okay, so Freud's stages of human development, which consists of 5 psychosexual stages of development, described how personality developed over the course of childhood. One important thing to note is that contemporary psychoanalytic theories of personality development have incorporated and emphasized ideas about internalized relationships and interactions and the complex ways in which we maintain our sense of self into the models that began with Freud. The 5 stages of Sigmund Freud's psychosexual development. The first one is the oral stage. This age ranges birth to 1 year. The second stage is the anal stage, age range 1 to 3 years. The third stage, the phallic stage, age range 3 to 6 years. The fourth stage is the latent period, age range 6 to puberty. And the fifth and last stage, the genital stage, age range puberty to death. So these are the 5 important stages of Sigmund Freud's psychosexual development. So the age range of this theory is from birth to death. So when we come to the oral stage, again this oral stage is divided into 2 parts, oral sucking and oral biting. Okay, this ranges from birth to 1 year. So here the erogenous zone, this is very important word, you remember, erogenous zone, which means sensitive to sexual stimulation. So the parts for sexual stimulations we call erogenous zone. Okay, so in this oral stage, the erogenous zone is mouth. So during the oral stage, the infant's primary source of interaction occurs through the mouth. So the rooting and sucking reflex is especially important. The mouth is vital for eating, and the infant derives pleasure, I am repeating, the infant derives pleasure from oral stimulation through gratifying activities such as tasting and sucking. So they satisfy their sexual drives by sucking the nipple of the mother, right? So the third important point in this oral stage is the infant is entirely dependent upon caretakers. In India, we say mothers. The child also develops a sense of trust and comfort through this oral stimulation. The student gets stimulation by sucking the nipple, and so that the child entirely depend upon mother or caretakers. The primary conflict at this stage is the weaning process. Weaning process means giving food other than the mother's milk, we call weaning process. So here the conflict arises. The primary conflict at this stage is the weaning process. The child must become less dependent upon caretakers. If fixation occurs at this stage, Freud believed the individual would have issues with dependency or aggression. So the boy who drink mother's milk, if you change that milk to food, he doesn't like, he never like to take that food. So here some conflict arises. Okay, so this is nothing but oral fixation. So this oral fixation can result in problems in future, drinking habits, smoking habits, or nail biting. So all this develops because of this oral fixation. So dear students, if you are a woman, then remember, try to give as many years as you can, maybe up to minimum up to 2 years milk to your baby. Okay. Now modern women are not interested to feed their babies with their breast milk. That causes maladjustment in the future. Please remember this. And coming to the second stage, that is anal stage, age range from 1 to 3 years. Here, erogenous zone is bowel and bladder control. So during the anal stage, Freud believed that the primary focus of the libido, he used wonderful words, specific words for each and every trait in the psychosexual analysis. Here he used the word libido. Libido means psychosexual energy. The energy utilizes for these sexual activities or sexual traits. We call it as a libido, Libido. So it was on controlling bladder and bowel movement. So the sexual traits from oral, from mouth to, they shift to the bladder and bowel movements. And another important point in this stage, the major conflict at this stage is toilet training. The child has to learn to control their bodily needs. Developing this control leads to a sense of accomplishment and independence. So according to Freud, success at this stage is dependent upon the way in which parents approach toilet training. Okay. Parents who utilize prize and rewards, this very important words, prize and rewards. When they utilize prize and rewards for using the toilet at the appropriate time, encourage positive outcomes in the child and help children feel capable and productive. Remember, so always you utilize prize and rewards at this stage. Freud believed that positive experiences during the toilet training stage serve as the basis for people to become competent, productive, and creative adults. Okay, when you praise and reward the child at this age of 1 to 3 years, then they will become competent, productive people, productive citizens, and creative adults. Okay, right. However, not all parents provide the support and encouragement, unfortunately, that children need during this stage. Some parents punish, some parents ridicule or shame a child for accidents. So, according to Freud, inappropriate parental responses can result in negative outcomes. Negative outcomes. Okay, some parents punishes at this stage, ridicule the child or subject to shame. So, when we do like that, that will inappropriate parental responses can result in negative outcomes. If parents take an approach that is too lenient, Freud suggested that an anal expulsive personality could develop. Okay, if the parents didn't give toilet training, if they become late, too lenient, then anal expulsive personality could develop, in which the individual has a messy, wasteful, or destructive personality. Okay, when you make it late, when you give the training late, then individual has a messy, wasteful, or destructive personality. If you start early, the training also a problem. If parents are too strict or begin toilet training too early, Freud believed that an anal retentive personality develops. So, if it is too late, anal expulsive personality will develop, which causes messy, wasteful, or destructive personality. If they start too early, then anal retentive personality develops, in which the individual is stringent, orderly, rigid, and obsessive. So, we should remember. So, the both cases, if we start too early, anal retentive personality develops. If we start too late, anal explosive personality develops. So, we need to provide this type of training on time. And coming to the third stage, the Palic stage, age range is 3 to 6 years. The erogenous zone is genitals. So, about this stage, Freud suggested that during the Palic stage, the primary focus of the libido is on the genitals. Okay, so if you see a baby touches the genitals in this age and satisfy his sexual trait. Okay, so he always keep his hand. So we put dryer, we put underwear to them. If you are a mother, you will know, and if you are already a mother, you will understand. So at this stage, children also begin to discover the differences between males and females. Okay, they want to play with opposite sex. They don't like to play with same sex at this age, 3 to 6 years. But some people thinks, do you have girlfriend? If a boy age of 3 years start talk with a girl or try to kiss, we treat it as a big mistake that boy did to her. So don't think like that, because by this theory you understand there is interaction, there is a attraction develops between a boy and a girl at this age, 3 to 6 years. Okay, and one more important thing, two types of complexes develops in one in male child and one in female child. That is, Freud also believed that boys begin to view their fathers as a rival for the mother's affection. Generally, boys love mother and girls love father. Okay, right. So, boy baby think father as a rival for the mother's affection. So, until father come, mother used to play with the boy. When father, means husband of the woman, come in, so immediately she take care about her husband, and she simply sometime the boy think ignored him. so that he thinks father as a rival for mother's affection, and he wants to kill father also. He want to beat father, he want to kick father. Okay, this type of complex we call Oedipus complex. This type of complex is called Oedipus complex. The spelling is Oedipus. O is silent. So the Oedipus complex describes these feelings of wanting to possess the mother and the desire to replace the father. So a very dangerous complex. So at this time we need to, as a mother, you need to tell the boy baby, dad came, he became very tired, I need to support him because he is giving you food or buying things. You have to make him understand why you are leaving your boy baby when your husband come. That is very important. Otherwise, it will increase. This complex increases and it leads to a drastic steps taken by the boy baby. Sometimes he throws his father's mobile. He put some frog or something in the father's shoes, and he want to trouble the father. So we should be very careful about this Oedipus complex. So don't underestimate girl babies. They also have one complex. However, the child also fears that he will be punished by the father for these feelings. The fear which the boy baby get because of this complex is termed as castration anxiety. Castration anxiety. Okay. When coming to the girl babies, the term Electra complex. Electra is the name of a girl. Name of a girl in which psychologists observe this type of complex. And Oedipus is the name of a boy in which this complex is identified first by the psychologists. So that complex is called Oedipus complex, and this complex is called Electra complex. So the term Electra complex has been used to describe a similar set of feelings experienced by young girls. Freud, however, believed that girls instead experience penis envy. Eventually, the child begins to identify with the same sex parent as a mean of vicariously possessing the other parent. For girls, however, Freud believed that penis envy was never fully resolved and that all women remain somewhat fixated on this stage. Right? So, in the Electra, in the girl named Electra, psychologists identified she threw the hairpins of the mother outside, and she keeps things of the mother. She used to hide the things of the mother, and when the mother searches for that, she feels happy. So this is called Electra complex. Okay, so psychologists such as Karen Horney disputed this theory, calling it both inaccurate and demeaning to women. Karen Horney is a great educationalist. He disputed this theory and calling it both inaccurate and demeaning to women. Instead, Horney proposed that men experience feelings of inferiority because they cannot give birth to children, a concept she referred to as womb envy. So, Karen Horney attacked man, and she said because men didn't give birth to children, a concept she referred to as womb envy. Okay, so when we come to the fourth stage of Sigmund Freud, the latent period, age range from 6 to puberty, and the erogenous zone is sexual feelings are inactive. Okay, when they get 6 and above, the sexual feelings became inactive. So they didn't touch their genitals, or they didn't mingle with girl babies like that. Until puberty, they will be all sexual feelings are inactive. So during this stage, the superego continues to develop while its energies are suppressed. So we have id, ego, superego. We have three types of Freud explained about these things. So here superego continues to develop while the id, its energies are suppressed. Children develop social skills, values, and relationships with peers and adults outside of the family. At this period, child develop social skills, how to talk, how to play without fighting, how to play. All these skills they learn, social skills, and they learn some values, praying to God, respecting the elders, and also relationship with peers and adults outside of the family. So the development of the ego and superego contributes to this period of calm. So I told you before, id energies are suppressed, and ego and superego contributes to this period of calm. The stage begins around the time the children enter school and become more concerned with peer relationships, hobbies, and other interests. So if you remember at this stage, if you comment his friend or her friend, they will get very angry, and they want their peer relationships. They treat their friends more than their parents. So at this stage, you should not comment their friends. But if they are bad, you have to make them understand by good words, by polite words, to change, to leave the friendships if the friend is bad. So don't use harsh words, because they love their friends, they love their hobbies, and they love their interests at this period of time. So the stage begins around the time that children enter school and become more concerned with peer relations and other interests. Okay, so the latent period is a time of exploration in which the sexual energy is repressed or dormant. Sexual energy is in the state of dormant. This energy is still present, but it is sublimated into other areas such as intellectual pursuits and social interactions. At this age, they try to talk with their friends, maybe boys or girls, but only they talk, but their sexual energy is dormant, repressed. So if they talk, they satisfy by talking with the opposite sex more. At this stage, as a teacher, you should understand their stage of development, and you have to cooperate with them, and also you have to carefully observe not to do any bad things. Okay. So this energy is still present, but it is sublimated into other areas such as intellectual pursuits and social interactions. So this stage is important in the development of social and communication skills and self-confidence. Okay, so communication skills develop at this age, and also self-confidence will develop at this age. So we have to treat the children in this age because communication skills and self-confidence develops. If we scold, or if we put them into punishment when they talk and when they communicate with other opposite sexes, so then the maladjustment will develop. So as a teachers, please remember this point, very important. As with the other psychosexual stages, Freud believed that it was possible for children to become fixated or stuck in this phase. Fixation at this stage can result in immaturity and an inability to form fulfilling relationships as an adult. Okay, so I told you before, so if we didn't handle the child properly at this stage, so it leads to immaturity and an inability to form fulfilling relationships as an adult. Okay, so some of us we are unable to speak others in a proper manner, and we cannot control our emotions sometimes with our siblings, means with our brother, younger brother or elder brother. So this is because of some immaturity and inability to form fulfilling relationships, but we can change it, no problem. Okay, Right. We can change if we identify such type of immaturity and inability to form fulfilling relationships. We can change the students by proper guidance. Okay. And the last stage is genital stage. Age ranges is puberty to death. So the erogenous zone is maturing sexual interest. Maturing sexual interest. So the onset of puberty causes the libido to become active once again. So in the previous stage it is inactive or it is repressed or dormant, but in this age, stage, again libido become active once again. During the final stage of psychosexual development, the individual develops a strong sexual interest in the opposite sex. This stage, at this stage only, male love female, female love male. Now other relations are coming up, unfortunately. Okay, so this is the age develop a strong sexual interest in the opposite sex. This stage begins during puberty, but lasts throughout the rest of a person's life until he die. So this type of relation, psychosexual development, strong sexual interests in the opposite sex will remain until the death of the person from the puberty. We have to remember, but we can control it and we can make a good life, but this will be active. Interest in the opposite sex will be active throughout our life. So where in earlier stages the focus was solely on individual needs, interest in the welfare of others growing during this stage, the goal of this stage is to establish the balance between the various life areas. So as a teacher you have to establish balance between various life areas, and we have to tell which are important in the future life other than the sexual relations. So by making understand, we can shift the interest interest in the opposite sex to goal setting. And if the other stages have been completed successfully, the individual should now be well balanced, warm and caring. Unlike many of the earlier stages of development, Freud believed that the ego and superego were fully formed and functioning at this point. Younger children are ruled by the id, which demands immediate satisfaction of the most basic needs and wants. Teens in the genital stage of development are able to balance their basic urges against the need to conform to the demands of reality and social norms. So, evaluating Freud's stages of human development, this theory is still considered controversial today, but imagine how audacious, daring, or bold it seemed during the late 1800s and early 1900s. So, Freud is a very daring person. So, how audacious it seemed during the late 18th century and 19th century. There have been a number of observations and criticisms of Freud's psychosexual theory on a number of grounds, including scientific and feminist critics. Feminist critics critiqued him more and more. So, so criticism of the psychosexual stages of development. That theory is focused almost entirely on male development with little mention of female psychosexual development. These theories are difficult to test scientifically. Future predictions are too vague. Freud's theory is based on case studies and not empirical research. I told you before, Freud based his theory on the recollections of his adult patients, not on actual observations and study of children. And so when we see these critics about psychosexual stages of development, we can understand certain points, but this theory, psychosexual analysis of Freud, is praised by many great people, and it is also many psychologists are still using the concepts from today, from that day to today. Thank you very much. Dear students, welcome to third session, that is 1.3.3 psychosocial development by Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, and I will explain about this theory in this session. It's a wonderful theory given by Erik Erikson. Okay, he is an American scientist, Erik Erikson. So he proposed stages of psychosocial development, and I will show his picture. So he is Erik Erikson. Okay, and let me see. So Erikson maintained that personality develops in a predetermined order through 8 stages of psychosocial development from infancy to adulthood. Okay, during each stage, the person experiences a psychosocial crisis that could positively or negatively affect personality development. So we should have enough knowledge about this psychosocial development theory proposed by Erikson, because every crisis that faced by the student at this different stages of development could positively or negatively affect personality development. So according to the theory, successful completion of each stage results in a healthy personality and the acquisition of basic virtues. So basic virtues are characteristic strengths that the ego can use to resolve subsequent crises. Failure to complete a stage can result in a reduced ability to complete further stages, and therefore a more unhealthy personality and sense of self. So these stages, however, can be resolved successfully at a later time. If we find any maladjusted student in our class, don't worry about him. We cannot change at the age where he got the crisis, but we can change that stages. We can resolve that crisis in his time with us. So these stages, however, can be resolved successfully at the time the student is available to you. Okay, so Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. The first stage is trust versus mistrust. Trust versus mistrust. I will explain what is it in the next slide. And stage 2 is autonomy versus shame. Autonomy versus shame. And stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Stage 5, identity versus role confusion. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. Stage 8 is ego integrity versus despite. And coming to the first stage, that is trust versus mistrust. Let me see what is trust and mistrust first. And so let me see what is trust and mistrust first. So if the caregiver is reliable, consistent and nurturing, the child will develop a sense of trust. So caregiver is reliable, consistent and nurturing, and the child will develop a sense of trust, believing that the world is safe and that people are dependable and affectionate. So this sense of trust allows the child to feel secure even when threatened, and extends into their own relationships, maintaining their sense of security amidst potential threats. And coming to the mistrust, conversely, if the caregiver fails to provide consistent, adequate care and affection, the child may develop a sense of mistrust and insecurity. So this could lead to a belief in an inconsistent and unpredictable world, fostering a sense of mistrust, suspicion and anxiety. Under such circumstances, the child may lack confidence in their ability to influence events, viewing the world with apprehension. So coming to the stage 2, autonomy versus shame. So autonomy means if you encouraged and supported in their increased independence, children will become more confident and secure in their ability to survive. They will feel comfortable making decisions, explore their surroundings more freely, and have a sense of self control. You no need to control them. Okay, if you encourage and support at this age, okay, and increased independence and self control automatically develop in the child. Achieving this autonomy helps them feel able and capable of leading their lives by their own. I know one person who is relative to me. He finished PhD. He submitted PhD and he did PhD in Delhi University. So while he is traveling, some problem happened at Vijayawada. Mid of his journey, he get down at Vijayawada and he called his father and he explained about the problem what he faced. Some strike or band, because of that he dropped at Vijayawada. And he is asking father what to do next. Means he didn't have enough self sense. He is unable to take decision, even though he finished his PhD. He is going to face the viva voce of his PhD, and at that time he is asking suggestions his father means. So we can estimate his sense of self esteem and self defense. Okay, so when we come to shame and doubt, on the other hand, if children are overly controlled or criticized, they may begin to feel ashamed of their autonomy and doubt their abilities. Okay, some parents always criticize the children. At my age, I did like this. You are not doing this. So this type of scolding or nagging, especially father always nag boy baby, mother always nag girl baby. Okay, so father boy baby didn't like father and girl baby didn't like mother. So these people attacks every time criticize the children. They may begin to feel ashamed of their autonomy and doubt their abilities. Okay, so even though they are capable to do the things, they doubt about their abilities. So this can lead to lack of confidence, fear of trying new things, and a sense of inadequacy about their self-control abilities. So what happens during this stage? Let me see. The child is developing physically and becoming more mobile, discovering that he or she has many skills and abilities, such as putting on clothes and shoes, playing with toys, etc. Such skills illustrate the child's growing sense of independence and autonomy. For example, during this stage, children begin to assert their independence by walking away from their mother, picking which toy to play with, and making choices about what they like to wear, what they like to eat, etc. So generally parents buy beautiful toys to the children because they love children, but after buying it, they keep the toys in the almirah or in the what we say glass made things in the house. They keep the things in that glass made almirahs. Okay, only the child has to look from outside. They didn't give because they think if we give that toy to him, he spoil or she spoil. So toys for playing. See, in the cognitive development, analysis will come first, then synthesis. So analysis means enia-isis, breaking enia-isis. Isis means big, enia, break the big thing. So first they break the toys, then synthesis. So they will try to join. Of course, the toys spoil, but this is the process of learning takes place in the minds of the children. So don't put the toys of your child, in the wardrobes or almirahs. Okay, so such skills illustrate the child's growing sense of independence and autonomy. For example, during this stage, children begin to assert their independence by walking away from the mother picking with toys to play with and making choice about what they like to wear, to eat, etc. And coming to the stage 3, initiative versus guilt, let us see what is initiative and what is guilt first. When caregivers encourage and support children to take the initiative, initiative means anything, the idea to start the work is called initiative. They can start planning activities, accomplish tasks, and face challenges. Okay, so at this stage, caregivers should encourage and support children. The children will learn to take a initiative and assert control over their environment. They can begin to think for themselves, formulate plans about their future, and execute them, which helps foster a sense of purpose. And when we come to the guilt, if caregivers discourage the pursuit of independent activities or dismiss or criticize their efforts, children may feel guilty about their desires and initiatives, and don't think that they stop doing things, but they will do secretly. Okay, if you didn't explain the cause, pros and cons of any activity, okay, if you simply scold or simply discourage or criticize, then they will not do things by making you see. They simply hide and they do secretly. Okay, because of that nature, most of the Indian young people are habituated to smoking, drinking, drugs because of criticizing at this stage. Okay, so what happens during this stage? These are particularly lively, rapid developing years in child's life. According to B, is an educationalist, BEE, in 1992, it's a time for, he said, this stage 3, which is initiative versus guilt, it's time for vigor of action and of behaviors that the parents may see as aggressive. Okay, so in this stage, what child do appears to the parents as aggressive. So parents criticize. So during this period, the primary features involves the child regularly interacting with other children at school. Central to this stage is play, as it allows children to explore their interpersonal skills through initiating activities. So when we come to the exploration, here's why exploration is important. Exploration is important in developing initiative. Okay, when they explore to their environment, they develop initiative. So they initiate work by themselves, no need of parents or teachers' suggestions. So this exploration important because learning from mistakes. If you leave your child or if you leave the students to explore, they will learn things from their mistakes. They will correct their mistakes and they can make their life set. And building self-confidence. Exploration build self-confidence. This is very, very important. Even the 1,000 people say you cannot do that. If a student has self-confidence, if a child has self-confidence, he can do the thing, no doubt about it. So I think you understood the importance of exploration and mitigating guilt. So if caregivers respect the child's need for exploration and do not overly criticize their mistakes, it helps prevent feeling of guilt. So instead, the child learns it's okay to try new things and perfectly fine to make mistakes. And coming to the stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Let me see the meanings of industry and inferiority first. So if children are encouraged by parents and teachers to develop skills, they gain a sense of industry, a feeling of competence and belief in their skills. They start learning to work and cooperate with others and begin to understand that they can use their skills to complete tasks. This leads to sense of confidence in their ability to achieve goals. And we come to inferiority. On the other hand, if children receive negative feedback or are not allowed to demonstrate their skills, they may develop a sense of inferiority. So they may start to feel that they aren't as good as their peers or that their efforts aren't valued, leading to a lack of self-confidence and feeling of inadequacy, which is very dangerous in their throughout their life. Once a person loses self-confidence, he try to suicide, he try for suicide. So we should be very careful when we dealing with the students. Then let me see what happens during this stage. The child is coping with new learning and social demands. Children are at the stage where they will be learning to read and write, to do sums, and to do things on their own. Teachers begin to take an important role in the child's life as they teach specific skills. At this stage, the child's peer group will gain greater significance and become a major source of the child's self-esteem. So at this stage, we need to encourage cooperative learning. So cooperative learning is very useful because they didn't meet teacher at all times, but they spend more time with their peer group. So when we encourage cooperative learning, this will be very fruitful at this age, industry versus inferiority. Okay. So at this stage, the child's peer group will gain greater significance and become a major source of the child's self-esteem. The child now feels the need to win approval by demonstrating specific competencies valued by society and develop a sense of pride in their accomplishments. Okay, so at this stage, children or students need appreciation when they accomplish things which are valued by society. So we need to appreciate when they accomplish things. So generally at this stage, students are in the school. So this stage typically occurs during the elementary school years from approximately ages 6 to 11, and the experience children have in school can significantly influence their development. So development of industry. At school, children are given numerous opportunities to learn, achieve, and demonstrate their competencies. So when a school of education professors give you some tasks, you feel why these tasks and why these people make me busy, you think like that. But when they give you different tasks, numerous opportunities, you will learn, achieve, and demonstrate your competencies. So they work on various projects, participate in different activities, and collaborate with their peers. And social comparison also comes in this stage. School provides a context where children can compare themselves to their peers. So they gauge their abilities and achievements against those of their classmates, which can either help build their sense of industry or lead to feelings of inferiority depending on their experience and perceptions. So remember, you don't compare your child with other. You don't compare. Okay, if you compare also, compare with a smooth voice and in a positive sense. If you compare, okay, and make your child or student to compare with other persons in their peer. So if they compare, now some people who are giving some motivational speeches without any psychological degrees, they became many people nowadays became motivational speakers. They used to say, don't compare your child with others. But see, your question paper is for 100. If you get 80 marks, you have to compare with 100 marks. Everywhere comparison is there. But these half-minded and half-learned people called to be as motivational speakers, they are giving wrong guidance to the society. Okay, so you have to compare your children with other peer in a proper manner, and the child himself or herself compare with the other people at this stage, and they correct themselves. Okay. See, against they gauge their abilities and achievements against those of their classmates, which can either help build their sense of industry or lead to feelings of inferiority depending on their experience and perceptions. And relating with feedback and reinforcement, teachers play a crucial role during this stage. Their feedback can either reinforce the child's sense of industry or trigger feelings of inferiority. Very important. The feedback what you provide as a teacher should increase their senses to do good. Okay. Otherwise, it reinforce the child's sense of industry, or if the feedback triggers feelings of inferiority, your feedback is not good. Okay, so try to give feedback to make the child's sense of industry. Okay, reinforce the child's sense of industry. So building life skills, we have 10 life skills proposed by World Health Organization. So try to build life skills, very important life skills. And dealing with failure also very important. Coming to the stage 5, identity versus role confusion. Let me see what is identity first. If adolescents are supported in their exploration and given the freedom to explore different roles, they are likely to emerge from this stage with a strong sense of self and a feeling of independence and control. This process involves exploring their interests, values and goals, which helps them from their own unique identity. So at this stage we have to ask the students, what is your aim? What is your aim? Don't say goal. Goal is somewhat which may or may not reach. So don't use the word goal. Goal you may or may not reach, but aim you definitely reach. So that is according to UNESCO Handbook of Science Teachers. They said aim is originated from goal. Goal is the ultimate thing. Okay, you may or may not reach. Okay, it is also supported by J.K. Sood about the goal. So always you say aim, don't use the word goal. Okay, so coming to the role confusion, if adolescents are restricted and not given the space to explore or find the process too overwhelming or distressing, they may experience role confusion. So what happens during this stage? During adolescence, the transition from childhood to adulthood is most important. Children are becoming more independent and looking at the future regarding career, relationships, families, housing, etc. The individual wants to belong to a society and fit in. Teenagers explore who they are as individuals, seek to establish a sense of self, and may experiment with different roles, activities and behaviors. So according to Erickson, this is important to forming a strong identity and developing a sense of directional life. Erickson suggests two important things to involve, the sexual and the occupational. Social relations, and at this stage, formation of identity, peer influence is more at this stage. Social acceptance and belonging, experiencing diversity, conflict and resolution will be observed. And coming to the stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Individuals who successfully navigate this stage are able to form intimate reciprocal relationships with others. So intimacy, develop intimacy. See, some students love their teachers and the teachers love some students only, because a great intimacy develop between them. Okay, so individuals who successfully navigate this stage develop intimacy, or they will become isolation. If you observe, some students want to sit at the back, they don't want to talk with the teacher. So as a teacher, you need to go there, give a shake hand, just tap his back to develop intimacy towards you. Okay, so when you tap and when you encourage, definitely develop intimacy with you, and he will tell his problems, he will take suggestions from you. Even though you kick, he never complain and he never feel sad. Okay, so intimacy. If not, they become isolated. So this stage is very important. Generally, this stage we generally we meet a college stage. College students are in college. Intimacy versus isolation. So you have to identify the person who sat at the back, and you have to develop some relations with him by talking in a fruitful manner. So here the success and failure in this stage 6. Success leads to strong relationships, while failure results in loneliness and isolation. Sometimes it leads to do some to take out their lives. Okay, suicides. So stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. Generativity means individuals feel they are making valuable contributions to the world. For instance, through raising children or contributing to positive changes in society, they will feel a sense of generativity. Okay, generativity involves concerns for others and the desire to contribute to future generations, often through parenting, mentoring, leadership roles, or creative output that adds value to society. When come to the stagnation, if individuals feel they are not making a positive impact or are not involved in productive or creative tasks, they may experience stagnation, and they didn't talk, they only go to the work and they come back. They didn't have good relation with the children, they didn't have good relation with his partners also. So that is because of some maladjustment in their personality, that is called stagnation. Stagnation involves feeling unproductive and uninvolved, leading to self-absorption, lack of growth, and feelings of emptiness. So what happens during this stage? Okay, psychologically, generativity refers to making your mark on the world through creating or nurturing things that will outlast an individual. During middle age, individual experience a need to create or nurture things that will outlast them, often having mentees or creating positive changes that will benefit other people. So teacher has to give suggestions even though the student in the middle age, even though he went from your school or college or university, if you have relation with the student, if you advise him, even though he can do things in the middle age. We give back to society by raising our children, being productive at work, and participating in community activities and organizations. So this is happens in this stage. And coming to stage 8, ego's integrity versus despair. So ego integrity, if individual feel they have lived a fulfilling and meaningful life, they will experience ego integrity. So this comes after middle age. This is characterized by a sense of acceptance of their life as it was, the ability to find coherence and purpose in their experiences, and a sense of wisdom and fulfillment. So ego integrity is an integration of things happen from his stage 1 to this last stage. So if the things are not good throughout his life, he can shift to despair. So I will explain what is despair. On the other hand, of ego integrity, if individual feel regretful about their past, feel they have made poor decisions, or believe they have failed to achieve their life goals, they may experience despair. Despair involves feelings of regret, bitterness, and disappointment with one's life, and a fear of impending death. This is very important. Fear of impending death. So what happens during this stage? This stage takes place after age 65 and involves reflecting on one's life and either moving into feeling satisfied and happy with one's life or feeling a deep sense of regret. So Erikson described ego integrity as the acceptance of one's one and only life cycle as something that had to be, and later as a sense of coherence and wholeness. So if we face integrity, if we like that, as we grow older, 65 plus years, and become senior citizens, we tend to slow down our productivity and explore life as retired people. So let us see the criticism of Atkins theory. By extending the notion of personality development across the lifespan, Erikson outlines a more realistic perspective of personality development. Based on Erickson's ideas, psychology has reconceptualized the way of later periods of life are viewed. However, Erickson is rather vague about the causes of development, what kinds of experience must people have to successfully resolve various psychosocial conflicts and move from one stage to another. The theory does not have universal mechanism for crisis resolution. Thank you very much. Dear students, welcome to fourth session, that is 1.3.4, moral and pro-social development. This development is explained by Kohlberg's theory. Let me see that Kohlberg's theory, and this is a wonderful concept you have to learn about this Kohlberg theory. So you will see he is also a great scientist, Kohlberg. So his full name is Lawrence Kohlberg. Lawrence Kohlberg is an American psychologist. His name is Lawrence Kohlberg. He born in 1927, October 25th. My mother also born on October 25th in 1939. Now she is having 83 years and 11 months. She was in my native place. So Lawrence Kohlberg born on October 25th, 1927, and he died in January 19th, 1987. He was an American psychologist, best known for his theory of stages of moral development. So Kohlberg theory of moral development is one of the most important theories in the field of human psychology. So Lawrence Kohlberg, generally we write 1927-1983, that is the lifespan of him. He is an American psychologist, but best known for his theory of stages of moral development. He has based his theory of moral development on the findings of his studies conducted on hundreds of children from different cultures, so that his theory got a very good name in human psychology. Okay, right. So this is the picture of Kohlberg, Lawrence Kohlberg. He is just like Abhishek. Okay, right, of our student. So Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development constitutes an adaptation of a psychological theory originally conceived by the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget. Okay, Kohlberg began to work on this topic as a psychology graduate student at the University of Chicago in 1958 and expanded upon the theory throughout his life. Okay, he conceived by the Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget. Okay, so the adaptation of psychological theory by Jean Piaget, and he expanded upon the theory throughout his life. So the 6 stages of moral development occur in phases of pre-conventional, conventional and post-conventional morality. Okay, so he said 3 levels, and 3 levels he suggested, and in each level there are 2 stages. So remember here, level and stage. So he proposed his theory in 3 levels. First level is pre-conventional, second level is conventional, third is post-conventional, and he put 2 stages in each level. Okay, in first level he put 2 stages, in the second level again he put 2 stages, third level he put 2 stages. So 6 stages are there in 3 levels. I think it's clear. Okay, so Lawrence Kohlberg stages of moral development are 6. If anyone asks you how many stages of Kohlberg's moral development, you have to say 6 stages. How many levels? You have to say 3 levels. Generally in interviews, in IAS or any other Public Service Commission, they ask if you opt for psychology. Okay, right. The 6 stages of moral development occurs in phases of pre-conventional, conventional and post-conventional morality. For his studies, Kohlberg relied on stories such as the hinge dilemma. Hinge dilemma. He used this word, hinge dilemma, and was interested in how individuals would justify their actions if placed in similar moral dilemmas. So I will explain what is hinge dilemma. So suppose if I tell you a story, so one person is in trouble and he has no money, but his wife is not feeling well. She went to a medical shop and asked for the drug, and the shopkeeper asked for money, but he said, I will pay you later, but the shopkeeper didn't agree to give. Then this person attacked that person and took medicine from his hands. He ran away and he supported ill health of his wife. So this is the situation. So we will ask, by telling this story, we will ask the student to tell, is it right or wrong? The person did this. In your perception, what do you think? Is it right or wrong? Then the student will say it is right. Then we will ask explanation why he is right. Some students says he is wrong. Again, we will, by that we can analyze the form of moral reasoning displayed rather than its conclusion, and classified it into one of the 6 stages. So hinge dilemma, you remember this word, H-E-I-N-G, hinge dilemma, D-I-L-E-M-M-A. Okay, so Kohlberg's stages can be more generally grouped into 3 levels, as I told you. Of 2 stages is, the 3 levels are pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. Very easy to remember. Pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. In pre-conventional, we have 2 stages, that is obedience and punishment orientation. Obedience and punishment orientation. It means how can I avoid punishment. And the second stage is self-interest orientation. What's in it for me? Paying for a benefit. So in the pre-conventional level, we have 2 stages, obedience and punishment orientation, and second one is self-interest orientation. And when we come to level 2, that is conventional, again we have 2 stages, that is interpersonal accord and conformity. It means social norms, the good boy or a girl attitude. And 4th stage is authority and social order maintaining orientation, that's law and order morality. In the level 3, post-conventional, again we have 2 stages, social contract orientation, and the 6th stage is universal ethical principles. So when we come to level 1, pre-conventional, let we discuss about the stage 1 and stage 2. So I told you stage 1 is obedience and punishment driven. So individual focus on the direct consequence of their actions on themselves. For example, an action is perceived as morally wrong because the perpetrator is punished. The last time I did that, I got spanked, I got hit, I got a kick from my teacher, so I will not do it again. So the worse the punishment for the act is, the more bad the act is perceived to be. Okay, so sometimes we have to punish the children. Okay, so nowadays our government gave a rule not to punish the children. Okay, so in America, in European countries, students become very arrogant because of lack of punishments. The same culture adapted to our India, unfortunately, because of, I told you, off-minded people. I told you off-minded, because of them, that culture came into our country. And now, if you observe, the students who are in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, very arrogant, and they are not hearing to the words of the parents even. Okay, so punishment should be there. And coming to the stage 2, self-interest driven. So these people always ask, what for me? Why should I do? Okay, why should I do? Okay, like that. So to your students, you have to say, if you study, you will become great. You will help the other people. If you get more salary, more fame and name, you can help poor people. Like that, you have to say at this stage 2. Express the what's in it for me position, in which right behavior is definitely by whatever the individual believes to be in their best interest or whatever is convenient, but understood in a narrow way which does not consider one's reputation or relationships to group of people. Stage 2 reasoning shows a limited interest in the needs of others. They always think about themselves. They didn't think about the needs of the others, and they think what is in it for me always, but only to a point where it may further the individual's own interests. Okay, and coming to the level 2, conventional level. So in this I told you stage 3 and stage 4 will come. Stage 3, good intentions as determined by social consensus. The self enters society by conforming to social standards. Individuals are receptive to approval or disapproval from others as it reflects society's views. They try to be a good boy or a good girl to live up to these expectations, having learned that being regarded as good benefits the self. In stage 4, authority and social order obedience driven, it is important to obey laws, dicta means strict rules, and social conventions. Okay, conventions are the methods we follow without any reason. Our ancestors followed and we have to follow. Those are called social conventions because of their importance in maintaining a functioning society. Moral reasoning in stage 4 is thus beyond the need for individual approval exhibited in stage 3. A central idea or ideals often prescribe what is right and wrong. If one person violates a law, perhaps everyone would. Thus, there is an obligation and a duty to uphold laws and rules. And level 3, which is a post-conventional level. The post-conventional level, also known as the principle level, is marked by a growing realization that individuals are separate entities from society and that the individual's own perspective may take precedence over society's view. Individuals may disobey rules inconsistent with their own principles. Post-conventional moralities live by their own ethical principles that typically include such basic human rights as life, liberty, and justice. Kohlberg has speculated that many people may never reach this level of abstract moral reasoning. See, in this level, post-conventional moralists live by their own ethical principles that typically include such basic human rights as life, liberty, and justice. But Kohlberg has speculated that many people may never reach this level of abstract moral reasoning. In stage 5, social contract driven, the world is viewed as holding different opinions, rights, and values. Such perspectives should be mutually respected as unique to each person or community. Laws are regarded as social contracts rather than rigid edicts. Those that do not promote the general welfare should be changed when necessary to meet the greatest good for the greatest number of people. This is achieved through majority decision and inevitable compromise. Democratic government is ostensibly based on stage 5 reasoning. But Kohlberg has speculated that many people may never reach this level of abstract moral reasoning. In stage 6, universal ethical principle driven, Moral reasoning is based on abstract reasoning using universal ethical principles. Laws are valid only insofar as they are grounded in justice, and a commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust laws. Legal rights are unnecessary as social contracts are not essential for deontic moral action. Decisions are not reached hypothetically in a conditional way, but rather categorically in an absolute way, as in the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. This involves an individual imagining what they would do in another's shoes if they believed what that other person imagines to be true. So, in this stage, remember, this involves an individual imagining what they would do in other shoes. If he is at that situation or in that situation, and he thinks, imagine what he has to do if they believed what that other person imagines to be true. So the development of self-concept and personality identify. Before learning this, we need to see some more things in this Kohlberg's 6 stages. So I told you before, this is comprised of 3 levels and 6 stages. The first is pre-conventional stage, and the conventional stage, and the post-conventional stage. So in pre-conventional we have obedience and punishment, and in the second stage of the pre-conventional we have self-interest and orientation. See, as a teacher we need to go through every stage carefully. Okay, in the second stage student think, what's in it for me? If I do, what I get? Okay, one teacher said, if you study, you will get a good job. So the person, one student sitting by putting one leg on another, he is not listening to the class, and the teacher approached the student and asked, what are you doing? Then the student asked, what I do if I learn this? Then the teacher said, you will become a great person, you will get a good job. Then he asked the student, after getting good job, the teacher said, you will get good salary. Then the student asked, after that? Then the teacher said, you will have a good wife, good children. And the student said, after that? The teacher explained, you will get great money and you will retire. Then the student asked, after that what teacher? Then teacher said, you can sit, you have enough money, you have good properties, you have everything, you can sit by keeping one leg on another, and you can do whatever you like. Then the student said, teacher, I am doing that from now itself. I am keeping my one leg on another from now itself. So students are like this. Okay. So every time they say, what's in it for me? So you have to tell reason for every activity. So if you do this, you will get this. Like that you have to tell. Otherwise the nowadays students are not interested to do. Of course, if you force them, they do something, but they are not do with their full mind and full effort. They are unable to put their effort to learn even a concept. So at this stage, self-interest orientation. So paying for a benefit, you have to tell, you have to explain. If they study well, if they did well, if they learn this concept, it will be useful to them. So application we have to tell first. In our teaching, we need to tell the application of the subject. So unfortunately, at present teachers, they will explain the concept, but they didn't tell what is the application of it, how it will be useful to them in their life. So because they didn't tell that, students are not interested to learn. They are only by hearting the concept for the sake of scores in the final tests, and they are studying only for the scores in the tests, not to keep and understand the subject which is very useful in their lives. So when we come to the conventional stage, the student has to learn about the social norms. Social norms. So we have to explain why the social norms are important, and we have to explain why we have to follow the law, and why we have to follow moral values. So if you are a good boy or a good girl, and what is the effect of good and what is the effect of bad, we have to explain to the students. So in the fourth stage, authority and social order maintaining orientation. So law and order morality will come. Okay, we have to explain. So generally we take our students to different field trips. We will make them. We should not call it as a field trips what the teachers are arranging now. It is like a picnic. They will go to one place, they eat, they dance, they didn't see anything around, they didn't explore. Simply they eat, they play, and they come in the evening. So don't call those trips as field trips. They are only some outings. Field trips are somewhat different. Before field trip, while field trip, and after the field trip, you have to do so many things. It is one method of teaching, field trip method. Okay, so field trips, when we take them field trips, we have to take them to the jail, okay, prison. So by looking at the prisoners, how they in the prison, they will get some sort of mind not to do wrong. They want to become good. So law and order, which morality is very important. This will come in stage 4. And in the post-conventional stage, social contract orientation. Social contract orientation will come. So in the social contract, in the post-conventional stage, okay, social contract driven. The word is viewed as holding different opinions, rights, and values. Such perspectives should be mutually respected as unique to each person or community. Laws are regarded as social contracts rather than rigid edicts. Don't think we should make students understand in the previous stages that laws are regarded as social contracts, but not rigid edicts. We should make understand the students why we have to follow the laws and rules. So by making them understand, laws are regarded as social contracts, not rigid edicts. So we have to develop positive thoughts about the laws. So those that do not promote the general welfare should be changed when necessary to meet or necessary that meet the greatest good for the greatest number of people. The greatest good for greatest number of people. So when we make like that, so we will face good citizens. Okay, some bad are there, but the percentage of good citizens will increase when we make them understand about the laws and morality. And when we make them understand, laws are regarded as social contracts rather than rigid edicts. Okay, so this is achieved through majority decision and inevitable compromise. Democratic government is ostensibly based on stage 5 reasoning. So democratic government is ostensibly based. The basis of the democratic government is social contract driven. Okay, so because our country, India, is a democratic country, so we should, as the teachers, we should concentrate on this stage 5. Okay, so to make stage 5 social contract and driven, we have to give training to the students from stage 2, 3, 4. When we give good training from stage 1, 2, 3 as parents and teachers, 4, then they enjoy the stage 5, which is social contract driven and which is basis for any democratic country or any democratic government. Okay, so in stage 6, universal ethical principles driven. Universal ethical principles. Moral reasoning is based on abstract reasoning. Remember, dear friend, moral reasoning is based on abstract reasoning. Okay, so moral reasoning, so making afraid to God, making people believe God, so that will be very important because moral reasoning is based on abstract reasoning. Abstract reasoning is reasoning fear about God, belief about God, belief in God. So, moral reasoning is based on abstract reasoning using universal ethical principles. Laws are valid only insofar as they are grounded in justice, and a commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust laws. This is very important. Laws are valid only insofar as they are grounded in justice. Okay, so when we give training to our students, so they will become judges, they will become police people, they will become good teachers, good engineers. So the laws are valid only insofar as they are grounded in justice. Justice will be more and injustice will be reduces. And a commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust laws. Legal rights are unnecessary. Legal rights are unnecessary as social contracts are not essential for deontic moral action. Legal rights are unnecessary as social contracts are not essential for deontic moral action. Okay, the people who are like that, they think like that. Decisions are not reached hypothetically in a conditional way. Decisions are not reached hypothetically. Okay, so in a conditional way, but rather categorically in an absolute way. Categorically in an absolute way, as in the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant is a wonderful philosopher. Okay, he said decisions are not reached hypothetically in a conditional way, but rather categorically in an absolute way. See, we should not force people. We should not force people at every time. Okay, every individual is independent. Every individual is unique. Okay, when you see the thumb print or your fingerprints, okay, you will surprise. Okay, by nature, or if you are believing God, God made people. Every individual is unique. Okay, so no print of thumb of one person match with the other. So by that you can understand. So Immanuel Kant emphasized in his philosophical thought, decisions are not reached hypothetically in a conditional way, but rather categorically in an absolute way. So this is very important. Don't force students to do things. Okay, so they have to do by themselves. You motivate the students like that. Develop interest in him. Develop interest in him. Okay, so don't make things hypothetically in a conditional way. Okay, but rather categorically in an absolute way, as in the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. So this involves an individual imagining what they would do in another's shoes if they believe what that other person imagines to be true. So when you create all these things in the minds of the students, then this involves an individual, this involves a person or a student or a germ imagining what they would do in another's shoes if they believe that what that other person imagines to be true. So when you go back about the word I told you, hinge dilemma. So in this hinge dilemma is nothing but what people, hinge dilemma means you will get an answer at this last thing. This involves hinge dilemma involves an individual imagining what they would do in another's shoes if they believed what that other person imagines to be true. So dear students, so please go through all these 6 stages of development, and the last is universal ethical principles driven very important. This involves an individual imagining what they will do in another's shoes if they believed what that other person imagines to be true. So, with this, I would like to conclude the Kohlberg's theory about 6 stages of moral development. So, remember, even though you are knowledgeable, worthwhile, if you didn't follow moral values, the knowledge and understanding go in vain. So, dear friends, please go through Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of moral development and understand, follow, and tell your students. Thank you very much. Dear students, welcome for the 5th session, session 5. In this, let me discuss development of self-concept and personal identity 1.3.5, and also we will discuss about 1.3.6, that is language development, communication and speech development, paralinguistic and linguistic stages of development. Okay, so in this session we will discuss about development of self-concept. Development of self-concept is very important lecture. Development of self-concept and personal identity. So, the self-concept is generally term for how someone thinks about. The self-concept is general term for how someone thinks about, evaluates or perceives themselves. To be aware of oneself is to have a concept of oneself. But Baumeister in 1999 provides the following self-concept definition. So, according to Baumeister, the individual's belief about himself or herself, including the person's attributes and who and what the self is. It's a beautiful definition by Baumeister. I will say it again. According to him, the individual's belief about himself or herself, including the person's attributes and who and what the self is. And another definition we can also see, Lewis, the self-concept is an important term for both social and humanistic psychology. So, Lewis in 1990 suggests that the development of concept of self has two aspects. Okay, so the concept of self develops in two aspects according to Lewis 1990. That is, first one is the existential self, the second one is the categorical self. Okay, so Lewis suggests that the development of a concept of self has two aspects. The first aspect is the existential self, and the second aspect is the categorical self. So, let me see what is existential self. So, this is the most basic part of self scheme or self concept. The sense of being separate and distinct from others, and the awareness of the constancy of the self. The child realizes that they exist as a separate entity from others, and that they continue to exist over time and space. According to Lewis, awareness of the existential self begins as young as 2 or 3 months old and arises in part due to the relation the child has with the world. So, this is very important. So, this existential self begins as young as 2 to 3 months old and arises in part due to the relation the child has with the world. So, we have to make environment, people good so that this existential self develops in a beautiful manner. So, coming to the categorical self, Having realized that he or she exists as a separate experiencing being, the child next becomes aware that he or she is also an object in the world. So, in the beginning, it is different. When it comes to categorical self, having realized that he or she exists as a separate experiencing being, the child next becomes aware that he or she is also an object in the world. In the beginning, what he or she thought, they thought they are separate entity from others. And now in this categorical self, they aware that they are also an object in the world. Okay. So just as other objects, including people, have properties that can be experienced, big, small, red, smooth, and so on. So the child is becoming aware of himself or herself as an object which can be experienced and which has properties. The self too can be put into categories such as age, gender, size, or skill. Two of the first categories to be applied are age, that means I am 3, and gender, I am a girl. In early childhood, the categories children apply to themselves are very concrete. Example, hair color, height, and favorite things. They compare with that. Later, self-description also begins to include reference to internal psychological traits, comparative evaluations, and to how others see them. So in the beginning, that red shirt boy, they say like that, or that white color haired boy, or that girl, like that they say. But after that, later, self-description also begins to include reference to internal psychological traits, a good boy or a bad girl, something like comparative evaluations, and to how others see them. And Carl Rogers in 1915 believes that the self-concept has three different components. The first one is self-image. It means the view you have of yourself. That is called self-image. What I think about myself. Self-image. The view you have of yourself is called self-image. Second, self-esteem or self-worth. How much value you place on yourself. How much value you place on yourself. That is called self-esteem or self-worth. Coming to the self-image, the view you have of yourself. The view, you have of yourself. So what you wish you are really like. So that is called third concept. So third component in this, which is called ideal self. So according to Carl Rogers, self-concept has three different components. One is self-image, self-esteem or self-worth, and the third one is ideal self. Self-image means the view you have of yourself. Self-esteem means how much value you place on yourself. And the third, ideal self, means what you wish you were really like. So this is ideal wish. With this ideal wish, you may or may not become like that, but you should have everyone should have an ideal wish. I want to become like that. But unfortunately, something we hear, some words from some elderly people. When we come to self-image, it means the view you have of yourself. This does not necessarily have to reflect reality. It does not have to reflect reality. I feel that I am very great, but I am not great in reality. So, self-image, this does not necessarily have to reflect reality. Indeed, a person with anorexia who is thin may have a self-image in which the person believes they are fat. So, anorexia means the personality relating with the outward appearance. Anorexia means thin people. They think they are very fat. So, this is the self-image. The person's self-image is affected by many factors such as parental influence, friends, the media, etc. Some parents tells, even though they didn't have any properties or money, they tell their children, we are very rich, don't worry. So because of that, our friends tell something, our media, so they sometimes they boost the things. So because of that, self image will affect, okay, in a positive manner or in negative manner. Some parents says, even though they are very rich, they say we didn't have any money, like that, so on. They like that, telling like that, so on and so forth. So that does also affects the self-image. Okay, so person's self-image is affected by many factors like parental influences, friends' influence, and influence of the media. Okay, so coming to the second component, self-esteem or self-worth, how much value you have placed on yourself. So self-esteem, also known as self-worth, refers to the extent to which we like, accept or approve of ourselves, or how much we value ourselves. Self-esteem always involves a degree of evaluation, and we may have either a positive or negative view of ourselves. So remember, self-esteem always involves a degree of evaluation. Okay. So that evaluation a student has to do by himself or herself. So high self-esteem, okay, we have a positive view of ourselves. This tends to leads to confidence in our own abilities, self-acceptance, not worrying about what others think, optimism. High self-esteem people will have optimism. So two things are there, optimism and pessimism. Okay, optimism means positive thinking. The persons who have high self-esteem, they are confident in their own abilities, they will accept if they did wrong, not worrying about what others think. They didn't worry about that tests going to conduct in the classrooms, because they prepare, they have high self-esteem, and they have optimism, positive thinking. Low esteem people, low self-esteem people, we have a negative view of ourselves. So high self-esteem people have a positive view of themselves, and low esteem people have negative view of themselves. This tends to lead to lack of confidence, want to be or look to be like someone else. They want to be like a hero of Bollywood or Tollywood or some other things. They will change their hair. Low esteem people, they dress like a hero of their favorite, and they behave like others. When they behave like others, you just estimate they have low self-esteem. Okay, so lack of confidence, want to be like someone else, or want to be look like someone else, and always worrying about what others might think. They always think about what others might think about themselves. They worry. Okay, they always ask what they said about me, what they say about me. Like that, they always worry about what others might think about them. And they are pessimists. Pessimism in their hearts and minds. So negative thinking, always they think in a negative. And coming to the third component, ideal self. It means what you wish you were like, really like. What you wish you are really like to be, you can say like that. So that is ideal self. If there is a mismatch between how you see yourself and what you would like to be, then this is likely to affect how much you value yourself. Okay, actually, you want to become an engineer and you become a assistant supervisor, then there is a mismatch comes. So if there is a mismatch between how you see yourself, you try to see yourself as an engineer, but you will like to be like a supervisor in the same profession. Okay, so then mismatch will come. So therefore there is an intimate relationship between self-image, ego ideal, and self-esteem. Humanistic psychologists study this using the Q-SOT method. This is Q-SOT method. This is a good technique in statistics, Q-SOT method. So by this method we can see the intimate relationship between self-image and ego ideal, and self-esteem and humanistic self-esteem. We can see the relationship between these three, or among self-image, ego ideal, and self-esteem. So for this we use Q-short method. We generally in interviews they ask, okay, how do you find the relationship between self-image, ego ideal, and self-esteem? So which method do you use? We need to tell Q-short method. So a person's ideal self may not be consistent with what actually happens in the life and the experience of the person. Hence, a difference may exist between a person's ideal self and actual experience. Two things are there: ideal self and actual self. So always mismatch for ideal self and actual self. There is a lot of gap. If the gap is less, successful man. If the gap is more, unsuccessful man. So this is called incongruence. This is called the difference may exist between a person's ideal self and actual self or actual experience. This is called incongruence. Incongruence. So where a person's ideal self and actual experience are consistent or very similar, a state of congruence exists. Rarely, if ever, does a total state of congruence exist. All people experience certain amount of incongruence, no doubt about it. So once I become an engineer, I want to become an executive engineer. But before that, I retired. So some difference is there for your ideal self and actual self. So incongruence is there for every human being. Incongruence is there. Okay. So for me, by the grace of God, I want to become a professor in India. I became professor in Ethiopia, and I became a research guide to University of London students. But I didn't become a professor in India. I became up to associate professor in India. So after my lot of experience, that became my aim to become a professor. But in Adamas University, I became a professor. Of course, I applied for many other central universities. Let me wait for the results. Okay. So incongruence is there in every human being. Okay. So the difference between actual self and ideal self. Ideal self is always at the top, and actual self is always little down to the ideal self. If the difference is less, successful life. Difference is more unsuccessful. So all people experience certain amount of incongruence, but I didn't have any incongruence. Okay, what I want, I became. Okay, so when we coming to the language development, communication and speech development, paralinguistic and linguistic stages of development, let me see the stages of language development first. So learning to understand and communicate with language is one of many important skills that young children develop. Linguistic development begins in infancy, and young children typically follow a series of steps towards language development. While these stages are not strictly correlated to age, they do reflect a pattern or an order in the way language is acquired. Syntax is the term that refers to the order of words, a concept that is necessary for written and oral communication. So syntax is the term that refers to the order of words. Children learn syntax through exposure to language and take gradual steps towards acquiring expressive and receptive language skills. So this syntax will learn by the students when they are exposed to the social life. Social life. So I have stayed in Ethiopia nearly 14-15 years. I can speak their language, but I am not that much fluent as the native speakers. But one person asked me, one Ethiopian asked me, George, the persons who come and stay here for 2 or 3 years, they are good in language, of Ethiopian language, but you stayed long time, but why? What is the problem with you? Then I said, I didn't have any social life. I didn't have any social life. After the university, I used to go to my house or dorm, and I have to prepare for the next class. I didn't go to bar or I didn't go to nightclubs. If I go there, social life is there. I can interact with many people and language immediately comes. Am I right or wrong? So that is the answer I gave to him. So social life is very important to learn language. So children learn syntax through exposure to language and take gradual steps towards acquiring expressive and receptive language skills. So social life also important to get that syntax. So expressive language includes the ability to express ideas in words, while receptive language is a term that refers to the ability to understand the words. Okay. So children gradual steps towards acquiring expressive language skills and receptive language skills. Expressive language skills, which includes the ability to express their ideas in their own words. And coming to the receptive language skills is a term that refers to the ability to understand the words. So there are several stages of language development. These stages are typically understood to consist of pre-linguistic and linguistic categories. The pre-linguistic stage is the first of the stage of speech development. So this stage is followed by the babbling stage, the first word stage, the two-word stage, and the telegraphic stage. So if you see this picture, so this is the stage and that is language skills. Pre-linguistic, cooing we can say, then become babbling come, several cycles. First words attaching meaning to words, the child start attaching meaning to the words. Two-word stage, discovering syntax, and the telegraphic stage. In the telegraphic stage, student truncated the language. So in pre-linguistic speech, in the pre-linguistic speech stage, infant begins to acquire the basics of both expressive and receptive language. During this stage of speech development, which occurs during the first 6 months of an infant life, children begin to use sounds to respond to stimuli. I will show the picture so you will understand better. Okay, so first 6 months we call pre-linguistic speech, and then come to the babbling stage. The babbling stage begins when children are about 6 months old and continues until they are about a year old. So the pharyngeal cavity is formed when children are about 4 months old, allowing them to create more sounds. The jaws also drop, allowing for greater movement of the tongue. These developments allow children to make babbling sounds. Okay, so they are parts of the body. Okay, see, pharyngeal cavity is formed at the age of 4 months, and after that, jaws also drop, allowing for greater movement. These jaws, movement of the tongue, these develops allow children to make babbling sounds. So this happens after 6 months. And this is the picture. If you see the picture, this is 0 to 6 weeks, vegetative sounds. After 6 weeks, they will do cooing, and 16 weeks, 16 means 1.5, after 1.5 month, we can say 3 months, so 4 months, 3 months, they laugh, and 16 weeks to 6 months, vocal play, they do vocal play. And this is all comes under pre-linguistic stage. And after that, 6 to 10 months, babbling stage, 10 to 18 months, single word utterances, mama, tata, dada, mama, like that, single words. 2 words, at the age of 18 months, above 18, they use 2 words. Then they come to the telegraphic speech. At the age of 2 years, the telegraphic speech means the speech in short form, not completely. Dada, come. Daddy, please come. When we say, after we become adult, we say, Daddy, please come to me, they say. But these people use the telegraphic speech. Dada, come. Ma, come. Like that. Full sentences, 2 years to 6 months. 2 years, 6 months, they can speak. full sentences. But not happened in all cases. Even Albert Einstein didn't speak word even though he got 8 years. Don't worry about it. That is one symbol of becoming great people. Okay, this picture will help you more and more. And coming to the pre-linguistic stage, one word stage. This stage occurs from birth to approximately 12 months of age. During this stage, infants communicate through non-verbal means such as crying, something like that. And at around 6 months of age, infants begin to recognize their own names and the names of familiar people and objects. So, second stage, holoparastic stage or one word stage. This stage typically occurs between 12 to 18 months of age. Children begin to use single words to convey entire idea or concepts such as mama, dada. They also began to understand the meaning of many more words than they are able to say. Two word stage. This stage typically occurs between 18 to 24 months of age. This is one classification. Children begin to combine words to form simple sentences such as me go, more juice, more scoops of ice cream, like that. At this stage, children are developing their understanding of basic grammar rules such as subject-verb agreement. So, telegraphic stage, this stage typically occur between 24 and 30 months of age. Children begin to use short, simple sentences that include only essential words such as doggy go outside. They are talking with the dog. Doggy go outside. Telegraphic stage. They may also begin to use pronouns and prepositions also at this telegraphic stage. And then fifth stage, language explosion stage. This stage typically occurs around age 3 when children begins to rapidly acquire new vocabulary and grammatical structures. They become more adept at expressing complex ideas and emotions through language. At this stage, children may begin to ask questions and use language for problem solving and negotiations. So, as a parent, as a teacher also, now after 3 years now, they are going to come to the schools according to NEP 2020 for foundation course. So, you should understand. At this age, they ask many questions. Ask questions and use language for problem solving and negotiation. As a teacher, you should be very patient. Show patience to answer the answers to the question. And the sixth is school age stage. And now we have to change. School age stage starts from age of 3 itself. When language explosion stage comes, they come to the school according to NEP 2020. Am I right or wrong? So we have 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So 5 plus 3 years early child care education for 1 and 2nd grade. 5 plus 3, 4, 5, 3 plus 4, 6, 7, 8, and the last 4 is 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so the school age stage, this stage begins around age 5 when children begins to refine their language skills and learn more complex grammar rules. They also begin to use language for academic purposes such as reading and writing. At this stage, children are able to understand abstract concepts and use language to express their thoughts and ideas in a more sophisticated way. Abstract concepts, it means in language only, not in other concepts. Okay? In language, they can understand abstract concepts. Okay? Abstract concepts understand only after 11 to formal operation stage, according to John Piaget. But abstract concepts in language they can understand, they cannot express. So, start early. This is very important as a teacher or a parent. It is never too early to begin encouraging language development. It is never too early to begin encourage language development. Remember, parents should offer their children speaking and listening opportunities through everyday conversation and practical activities. Research has shown that parents who talk to their children, read to them, attentively listen and react to their chattering, gestures and words provide their offspring a distinct advantage So in Western countries, I have seen many people, they read for their children. Okay, they will take out one story, and children only see the pictures, so they didn't read, so that parents, good mothers or good fathers, they read for themselves, for the children. So research has shown that parents who talk to their children, read to them attentively, listen and react to their chattering gestures and words, provide their offspring a distinct advantage. So, as a parent, as a mother or a father, you have to read some stories for your children when they are at learning stage of language. More conversations between infant and parent result in better language development for the child. So, please you spare some time with your children, okay? So that the more conversation between infant and parent result in better language development for the child. Research also shows that parental input, especially in language development, eventually plays a more critical role in school readiness than the parent's career, income or status. This is very important. At the age of, generally after marriage, responsibilities increases, and the father, maximum is he want to say outside to earn money. He always think about the career, and he always think about the income, always think about the status. But remember, research also shows that parental input, especially in language development, eventually plays a more critical role in school readiness than the parent's career, income or status. So, as a parent, you have to spare your time, you give more importance to your child who is in the stage of language learning than your career and income or status. With this, I can conclude the 5 sessions. And the last slide, thank you for your attention and good luck. Thank you, friends. Good luck. My mobile number and WhatsApp. You can talk with me anytime if you get any doubts. Thank you once again. Thank you.